The stress of working 7 days a week, always in front of a microphone dealing with...
The music industry is a challenging field. It takes a lot for an artist to thrive and sustain a long-lasting career. Fame can arrive quickly, but it can fade just as fast. Some artists reach the pinnacle of success only to plunge back to the bottom, and while many leave by their own choice, plenty are forced out. Here's a look at 20 country artists who have completely vanished from the spotlight and why they did. Number 20, Cold Eggs and the Lonesome. Cold Eggs and the Lonesome was a country band formed in 2006. The members included Cold Eggs as the lead singer, his brother Shade Deggs on bass guitar, David Wallace on lead guitar and backing vocals, Jimmy Wallace on keyboards, and Brian Hayes on drums. Cole and Shade were from Lake Jackson, Texas, while David and Jimmy, also brothers, hailed from Shreveport, Louisiana. Brian Hayes was from Florida. Before forming the band, Cold Deggs had already written songs for musicians from other countries. He penned a track for Kenny Chesney's album, wrote Tracy Bird's single Cheapest Motel in 2006, and followed it with Tattoo Rose for Andy Griggs in 2008. Later, he wrote It Ain't the Whiskey for Gary Allan, which came out in 2013. The band made their mark with just one song. Their first single, I Got More, came out in 2007 and reached number 25 on the country music charts. It was a promising start for a new group. However, their second single did not do well. It failed to get attention, and soon after, the label dropped them. That was the end of Cold Eggs and the Lonesome. Since then, the group has not returned to the spotlight. Number 19, Ricky Van Shelton.
And I love the music, of course. The stress of working 7 days a week, always in front of a microphone dealing with...
Ricky Van Shelton was one of the most recognizable voices in country music for about 5 years, beginning in the late 1980s. He gained attention with his debut album, Wild-Eyed Dream, released in 1986. What followed was a run of 10 #1 songs, including Somebody Lied, Life Turned Her That Way, Do Not We All Have the Right, and Living Proof. He released 9 full albums during his career, and the first 4 achieved platinum certification. Then, something changed. The momentum stopped, and Ricky began to fade from the scene. By the early 2000s, he had nearly disappeared. His final studio album, Fried Green Tomatoes, came out in May of the year 2000. He also released a Christmas album, his last recording that same year. After that, there was silence. There were hints of trouble behind the scenes. In the 1990s, Shelton himself mentioned problems in his personal life, including struggles with drinking and being unfaithful. His wife later published a book that detailed the strain those issues put on their relationship. These problems may have affected his decision to step away from the spotlight. In May of 2006, Ricky Van Shelton announced that he was retiring from music. He said he wanted to focus on his family, and true to his word, he stepped away for good. There has not been a public performance or a surprise return. Like Bobby Gentry before him, when Ricky said goodbye, he meant it. Fans still remember the voice and the songs, but the man behind them quietly closed the door and walked away. Number 18, Cindy Thompson.
Well, I've been writing songs, but I've been a mom.
Yes, you have.
Just living a normal life, quiet life, trying to get back to...
Cindy Thompson began dreaming about country music when she was 12 or 13. She held on to that dream throughout her teenage years. After just 1 year of college, she left and moved to Nashville. Her parents supported her decision, and she took on whatever job she could find, working as a nanny and cleaning houses, until she met a record producer who helped her secure a publishing deal. Most new singers in Nashville spend about 5 years trying to break through, but Cindy made it in just 2. She signed a recording contract with Capitol Records, released a gold album, and landed a #1 song called What I Really Meant to Say. She went on tour with Jody Messina and Alan Jackson and performed at shows with Trisha Yearwood and Martina McBride. From the outside, it seemed like everything had fallen into place. However, behind the scenes, things were not so perfect. Cindy realized that the life of a touring artist was not what she had thought it would be. In a phone interview from her home in Franklin, Tennessee, she said she could not continue that lifestyle. She and her husband, Daniel Goodman, had settled down, and her priorities had shifted. Her first single came out in 2000 and climbed to the top of the charts. She also had 2 more songs from that album land on the charts, I Always Liked That Best and I Am Gone. Even with this early success, she pulled back and did not make a second album. A comeback effort in 2006 did not revive her career, and it was not until 2009 that she released a short extended play. By then, the moment had passed and the music world had moved on. Number 17, Lacosta Tucker. Lacosta Tucker made her name in country music during the 1970s and 80s. She is the older sister of Llaya Tucker, who became one of the biggest stars in the genre. The two performed together as children in a family group called the Country Westerners. After finishing college, Lacosta moved to Las Vegas to be near Llaya, and in the year 1974, she signed a recording contract with Capitol Records. She quickly found her place in the country music scene. Her songs continued from the late 1970s into the early 80s. Her last charted single was "Love Take It Easy on Me" in 1982. After that, she stepped back from solo work, but continued touring for a short time alongside her sister Llaya. Their family bond remained strong on the road. However, when that stretch of touring ended, Lacosta quietly faded from the spotlight. She did not pursue another album. She did not make a return. She simply withdrew from the business and kept out of public view. Number 16, Chris Kagel. Chris Kagel had a strong run in country music before retiring in 2015. He built his name on heartfelt songs like "What a Beautiful Day," "What Kinda Gone," and "I Breathe In, I Breathe Out." His first album, Play It Loud, was certified gold in the United States, and his second, a self-titled release, reached the same mark. After that, he released 3 more albums, each with songs that climbed into the top 20. Kagel changed labels in 2010 and released Back in the Saddle. 3 years later, the label folded, leaving him without a platform. Then came October 2015. Kagel posted a short, quiet message on Facebook, stating he was stepping away from music. There was no press conference, no tour, just a choice to spend more time with his family. He also stated that he recognized the direction of the music scene and did not want to alter his style to conform to the increasingly pop-driven trends. That was not the type of country music he believed in. He chose to walk away instead of embracing that change. Yet, even though he referred to it as a retirement, the story did not quite end there. His website indicated that he was performing in various cities across the United States as of 2002. He may not be pursuing chart positions anymore, but he has not entirely left the stage. Number 15, The Chicks. The Dixie Chicks were once at the top of country music, particularly during the 1990s. Their strong harmonies and bold sound earned them a loyal fan base and praise. However, things changed swiftly in the early 21st century. During a concert in London, lead singer Natalie Maines made a politically charged comment about President George W. Bush. That sparked outrage in the United States and negatively impacted their public image. Still, the group did not disappear right away. In 2006, they released Taking the Long Way, an album that addressed the backlash directly. That same year, their documentary Shut Up and Sing gave fans a behind-the-scenes look at what they faced. However, after that, they stepped back from the spotlight. Almost a decade passed before they began to resurface. Around the middle of 2015, they announced a new tour. Their first significant return to national attention came in 2016 when they joined Beyoncé on stage at the 50th Annual Country Music Association Awards. The performance drew both praise and more controversy, but it reminded everyone that the Dixie Chicks had not lost their edge. In the year 2020, the group made a change. They dropped Dixie from their name and became the Chicks. That same year, they released Gaslighter, their first full studio album in 14 years. The songs reflected their journey and personal growth as a group and as individuals. Number 14, Shelley West. Shelley West did not have to work hard to introduce herself in country music. As the daughter of Dottie West, she already carried a name people recognized. However, Shelley still had to prove she could hold her own. She initially followed her mother's path into the country scene by singing and collaborating with other artists. Her duet with David Frizzell, You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma, was more than just a radio success. It found its way into Clint Eastwood's film Any Which Way You Can. The song rose to number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart in 1981. Shelley West did not stop there. In 1983, she released Jose Cuervo, a song about drinking and the blurry nights that come with it. The track hit number 1 and stirred interest in the charts and the sales of the tequila named in the lyrics. It became her biggest solo hit. She toured with her mother through the rest of the 1980s and into the early 1990s. The two shared the stage and often sang together. However, everything changed in 1991 when Dottie West passed away in a car crash. The loss deeply affected Shelley. Her mother's passing also marked the end of her steady touring and recording. A few years later, she helped bring a television film about her mother's life to the screen in 1995. After that, she stepped back from music almost entirely. Although she has performed occasionally with David Frizzell at special events, her focus shifted to family and life away from the spotlight. Number 13, Ricochet. Ricochet made a strong entrance into country music with their debut album. The album featured a #1 hit called Daddy's Money and included 3 other songs that climbed into the top 10. That initial release garnered the band quick attention, and for a time, it appeared they had established a steady place in the country scene. However, replicating the success of that first album proved challenging. Each subsequent release produced diminishing results, and none of their later singles made it into the top 10. The momentum that had started with such force began to wane. By 2001, their record label decided to part ways with them. After that, Ricochet moved to an independent label. However, even then, they never regained the same level of reach they had initially. Over time, the group experienced significant changes. Most original members left, only a few from the early lineup remain today. Although they continued to perform, the days of chart-topping songs were behind them. Number 12, Julie Roberts. Julie Roberts grew up in a home marked by pain. Her father drank heavily and treated the family poorly, but her mother displayed a quiet strength that left a lasting impression on her. That strength stayed with Julie as she sought to navigate her path in country music. She began her career behind a desk as a receptionist at Mercury Records. Then she received her first significant opportunity in 2004. Her debut single, Break Down Here, attracted attention and gave her a rapid start. However, she never quite broke through, even with more songs on the charts. She left her label and released her third album independently, hoping to reach a broader audience without the restrictions of a major company. It failed to gain traction. Despite selling more than 2 million albums, everything seemed to collapse simultaneously. In the year 2010, the Nashville flood took her home. That same year, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Mercury dropped her from the label. She tried again in 2013 and signed with Sun Records, but her fourth album also struggled. That same year, she appeared on The Voice, hoping to restart her career, but did not make it through the blind auditions. In October 2022, she returned with Ain't in No Hurry after nearly 10 years without a full release. It is unclear where things will go from here, but this marks the first new chapter in a long time. Number 11, Colin Ray. Colin Ray carved a niche in country music with 5 platinum albums and 15 #1 hits. He hails from Arkansas, a state celebrated for producing some of the biggest names in country music. Ray has earned his place among them. His music explores various themes, ranging from soft love songs to tracks that convey deeper messages about life and values. He started in a band called The Rays, performing under Bubba Ray. In 1990, he chose to pursue a solo career. That decision paid off when his song, Love Me, climbed to #1. The success continued throughout the decade, with album after album keeping him on the charts. However, by 2000, things began to shift. One of his singles from that year reached the top 5, but it was the last time one of his songs achieved that success. Even though he remained active in music, his strong chart presence from the 1990s gradually faded. After 2009, he heard very little about major releases. He later wrote a memoir titled A Voice Undefeated. In it, he expressed his thoughts on how country music had evolved. He felt that the core of the genre had been lost. He wrote that country music once gave common people a voice and conveyed the truth about their lives. Number 10, Jessica Andrews. Jessica Andrews is a singer who has had a short period of fame. She was only 15 years old in 1999 when she arrived on the scene. Her first album did well, with 3 songs entering the top 40. However, her biggest moment came 2 years later. She released Who I Am, which climbed to #1 in 2001. That song marked the high point of her time in the spotlight. She returned with another single that reached the top 20, but the momentum had slowed. A few years later, the label she signed with, Carolwood Records, shut down. Most of the singers were transferred to the parent label, Lyric Street, but Jessica Andrews was not. That decision halted her career. Since then, not much has been heard from her. She has not had a significant presence in music over the past decade. Fans still remember her for that one powerful song, but many wonder what might have happened if things had played out differently. For some, she is a name that evokes a time when country music sounded a little more honest, if only for a short while. Number 9, Tai England. Tai England's story began in Oklahoma long before the charts noticed him. He met Garth Brooks while they were both students at Oklahoma State University. The two started a friendship over music and eventually shared a place. England had already been playing in high school bands and was familiar with the guitar. However, music was not a priority when he left school and worked at an automotive paint shop. In 1995, England secured a record deal and released his debut single, Should've Asked Her Faster. The song climbed to number 3, paving the way for a full album and 3 more records in the subsequent years. However, that first song was the only one in the top 10. The closest he came afterward was with Irresistible You, which reached number 22. By the end of the decade, things slowed down. He took a break from the music scene and stayed out of the spotlight for a while. He gave it one last shot with a final album in 2007, but none of the songs caught on. After that, he stepped away from country music and began selling real estate in Oklahoma. Though he left the charts behind, Tai England did not completely turn his back on music. Between 2018 and 2022, he joined Garth Brooks on his stadium tour, playing acoustic guitar and providing backup vocals. A quieter return brought him full circle, back on stage, back with a friend, and back in the music where it all started. Number 8, Jeff Carson. Jeffrey Lee Herndon, known on stage as Jeff Carson, was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1963. He grew up singing in church and later formed a band in Rogers, Arkansas. After performing in Branson, Missouri, where he wrote songs and played shows, Carson moved to Nashville. That decision opened the door to working behind the scenes. He recorded demo tracks for some of the country's biggest names. In 1995, Carson signed with Curb Records. His first single, Yeah Buddy, helped him get started, but it was Not On Your Love and The Car that brought him national attention. Over the next few years, Carson released 2 more albums. Butterfly Kisses was released in 1997, followed by Real Life a year later. Neither album produced songs that broke into the top 10 or even the top 40. Still, Carson persevered, releasing singles here and there between the years 2000 and 2006. In February 2009, he stepped away from the music business and embarked on a different path. Sadly, Jeff Carson passed away in March 2022 due to a heart attack. Although his time in the spotlight was brief, he left behind songs that still resonate with those who remember. Number 7, Bobbie Gentry. In 1967, Bobbie Gentry became a national name with her haunting song, Ode to Billy Joe. The single took off quickly, selling 3 million copies and earning her 3 Grammy Awards that same year. It was not just the song that made history. Gentry stood out because she wrote and produced her music, which was rare for a woman in country music at the time. She continued to release music throughout the late 1960s and into the 70s. While some songs were successful, none achieved the same level of attention or sales as her first breakout hit. In 1978, she released her final single, He Did Me Wrong, But He Did It Right. The song never made it onto the charts, and afterwards, Gentry quietly stepped away from music altogether. As a result, she retired in the late 1970s. She moved to Los Angeles, far from the cameras and stages, and has lived outside the spotlight for decades. Number 6, Cletus T Jud. Cletus T Jud made a name in country music by doing something different. He turned popular songs into clever parodies. From the mid-1990s through the early 2000s, he built a career poking fun at big hits. His version of Toby Keith's I Love This Bar became I Love NASCAR, and Kenny Chesney's She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy turned into My Cellmate Thinks I'm Sexy. His music videos enhanced the comedy, helping him stand out, despite rarely being heard on the radio. Even without regular airplay, he remained active on the road, performing in his shows that blended music with humor. He spent years touring, entertaining audiences with his humorous takes on country life and music. After spending so much time away from home, he decided to step back. He collaborated with singer Chad Brock for a while on the radio, and in 2012, he left touring behind. By 2015, he made it official. He was retiring from the music industry. In an article published in January 2015, Judd stated he no longer wanted to continue and wanted to focus on raising his daughter. 3 years later, in 2018, he returned with a few new songs and small shows. It was less about a big comeback and more about telling his story. Number 5, Chad Brock. Chad Brock's path was anything but ordinary. He moved through school choir, football, and even professional wrestling before finding his place in country music. At one point, he competed with World Championship Wrestling, a world far removed from where he would end up. He brought all that past with him when he stepped into the music world. Brock's first steps into country music came before his name was widely known. His second single, Ordinary Love, caught the ears of country fans in the late 1990s. However, it was not until his second album that he struck gold with Yes, a song that climbed to #1 and cemented his place in the industry. It gave him his biggest moment, and he was right in the mix with some of the genre's top names. His career took a sharp turn in 2005 when he moved into radio. He became a morning host in Tampa, Florida, shifting from touring to waking people over the airwaves. From there, he went to Atlanta and later took a position with a television channel called the Country Network. He stayed active in country media, even if it was not behind a microphone or on stage with a guitar. It is difficult to speculate about his current work. At one point, he spoke about running for the Senate. What is certain is that politics now plays a major role in his life. His online presence shows clear support for conservative causes, the National Rifle Association, and the Second Amendment. Chad Brock still has plenty to say, although he has not made music headlines in recent years. Number 4, Carolyn Dawn Johnson. Before Carolyn Dawn Johnson stepped forward as a country singer, she had already made her mark behind the scenes. She wrote Single White Female for Chelly Wright, a song that climbed to #1 and brought attention to her writing skills. That success helped open doors, and in the year 2000, she signed a recording deal. Her debut album followed 1 year later. From that first album came 2 top 10 songs, Complicated and I Do Not Want You to Go. Both did well and gave her a strong start as a solo artist. However, after that early run, she returned from the spotlight for a while. The break was not a full departure, though. She continued to stay involved in music, writing, and working with others. In the years since, Johnson has worn many hats. She joined Miranda Lambert's band for a stretch, performing in a supporting role while continuing to write and produce. Her last full album, Love Rules, came out in 2010. Number 3, Deana Carter.
Interestingly enough, definitely my dad, obviously.
Deana Carter made a name for herself right out of the gate with Strawberry Wine, her debut single that quickly became her first #1 hit. The song struck a chord with country music listeners everywhere. It is still played today and often picked for karaoke nights in downtown Nashville. Many fans still consider it one of the most recognized songs in country music history. At the peak of her career, Carter scored 2 more #1 hits, And We Danced Anyway and How Do I Get There? Those songs helped solidify her place in the industry. Although her time at the top did not last as long as some, she never stepped away completely. In the year 2013, she released a new album called Southern Way of Life. 4 years later, she made media appearances to mark the 20th anniversary of her well-known album, Did I Shave My Legs for This? More recently, Carter has stayed active by turning to online platforms. She started 2 video podcasts, Wing It Wednesday and TGIF Isodes. The second focuses on her faith and is shared through her YouTube channel. Even though she may not be on the radio as often as before, Carter has continued to speak to her audience in a new way and on her terms. Number 2, Llaya Macccan. Llaya Macccan looked set to become one of country music's brightest stars in the late 1990s. Songs like Down Came a Blackbird, I Wanna Fall in Love, and With You brought her quick attention. She grew up in Washington, often following her father's country band to local shows and sometimes stepping up to sing with them. Those early experiences shaped her path. Her big break came in 1997 with the release of Leela, her first album. It ended up being the highest-selling debut by a country artist that year, and her name quickly spread across the industry. She signed with a different company and put out a few more singles, but parted ways again in 2008. From there, she chose to go independent. Even though she had a few appearances on television, including a role on Walker, Texas Ranger, she faded from public view during the early 2000s. Number 1, Tracy Bird. Tracy Bird made his mark in country music during the early 1990s with a voice rooted in tradition and songs that connected with everyday people. Hits like Holden Heaven, Watermelon Crawl, and The Keeper of the Stars made him a familiar name nationwide. He stuck close to his Texas roots and built a career on a sound that never tried to chase trends. By the 2000s, his success became more modest, and by 2010, he stepped away from the spotlight. He took a few years to focus on family life and take a break from the long stretches on the road. That time away gave him a chance to reset. Tracy came back in 2016 with All American Texan. It was a quiet but clear return, reminding fans he still had something to say. Which of these country music stars do you miss the most? Let's hear from you in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.